There is a fact that remains. Every 90 seconds, a woman dies in childbirth someplace on this planet. That is 1,000 women dying every day, many of them very young, who could be saved. And we are struck as we travel how many of them ask us, what is it like in America? Do women here also feel alone and afraid at the moment, supposed to be filled with joy? Pregnant women around the world sending out the message about the wonder and hope of a new beginning with someone you love. Women like Christy Spadaro at Maimonides Hospital in Brooklyn, who had just given birth to a healthy baby girl.
Look at her. Oh. I got a yawn. So this is your first?
Yes, it's our first.
And you're how old?
26 today.
Today? Oh, you're kidding.
Which means she's giving birth about the average age American women have their first child. She's likely to have 2 children, live a life stretching into her 80s. Through Skype, we introduce Christy to a teenager in Afghanistan who has just given birth to her baby boy.
How old is her baby boy?
Couple of hours, 2 hours old.
My goodness.
2 hours old.
Christy's biggest concern before birth was whether she'd have to have a C-section. And this Afghan teenager's?
What was your biggest fear when you knew you were going to have a baby?
She was thinking if I will be alive after birth or during birth.
For a young girl in Afghanistan, there is a 1 in 10 chance when having a baby, she will die. Nick Kristof, columnist for the New York Times, has written extensively about the dangers women face in childbirth.
It's a kind of Russian roulette in a lot of the world.
It's a Russian roulette, except that it's very much targeted to poor women, to rural women, to uneducated women. And in some of these places, women has more than a 1 in 10 lifetime risk of dying in childbirth. The toll of deaths from violence and terrorism is huge, but far more people die in Afghanistan from childbirth than from Taliban bombing.
Every day across the world, a kind of battlefield on which the fallen are 1,000 women who lost their lives.
We know exactly how to save these lives. It's not that we need some kind of new technological breakthrough. The question is, are we willing to make those lives a priority?
And it wouldn't take much to make a big difference in the life of little girls who are forced to marry before the age of 15. The consequences can be barbaric. This girl says she was 8 years old.
During sex, I was crying and begging him to stop, but he didn't listen. Then he put his hand on my mouth like this. I couldn't breathe, and I was crying, but he used me anyway. And I just cried.
In Afghanistan, more than half of marriages involve child brides. Miriam married at 13. Her bride price, $2,000, the price of 2 cows. The younger the bride, the higher the price because of the premium placed on virginity. Miriam once dreamed of being a teacher, but was pulled out of school.
My wish was to go to school, and I didn't want to get married at all.
Now she is 15, 7 months pregnant, and when we first meet her, nervous about what will happen. We're amazed how tiny Miriam's body is, less than 5 feet tall. She weighs about 90 pounds, the same as an average 10-year-old child in America. Her narrow hips and undeveloped body place her in the danger zone, where girls under the age of 15 are 5 times more likely to die giving birth.
Give us a sense physically what that does to your risk when you are 15 or younger.
So many of these girls end up in a marriage when their pelvises aren't fully formed. So they're much more likely to end up having obstructed labor and in many cases dying.
Good morning. Thank
In
you.
a shelter in Afghanistan, I asked these women a question.
How old were you when you got married?
She got married when she was 12.
Married when she was 12?
Yeah. 13 years old she got married.
13?
13 years old. 10 years old.
No matter, the law says it's not legal until a girl is 16. When we ask how many of them knew a woman who had died in childbirth, every hand was raised. And again, for those of us who won the lottery of getting to live in America, it's hard to imagine that 30% of the women in the world are giving birth like this. No skilled medical attendant. She's on a dirt floor in her shack. The village attendant tries to help but has no medical training, so she keeps pushing down hard on the stomach of the pregnant woman, trying to squeeze the baby out.
Only 20% of the births are attended by some personnel that knows anything about how to manage childbirth.
So these women are
80%
alone?
of them, they're alone with relatives.
And if you are alone and undergoing a hemorrhage, what is it like for the mother?
They will die if unaided.
But take a look at this. Hope in white dresses. Over the past 10 years, organizations like Japago have assembled an army of young women, giving them basic training as midwives.
I'm in labor.
Today, with the use of a simple backpack, the students are taught how to deal with hemorrhaging, the #1 cause of maternal mortality.
Relax.
In their faces, you can see how much they want to know, how much they want to help.
I'm very honored to have worked with such incredible women.
There are now 3,000 trained midwives dispersed across Afghanistan, and according to a recent survey, the number of women dying here because of childbirth is dropping from 1 in 11 to 1 in 50.
There's still far too many women dying, but one gets the sense that change is not only possible, but to some degree inevitable.
Candles are being lit.
Candles are being lit all over.
So what about Miriam, that 15-year-old girl so terrified about pregnancy? Like so many women, she'll give birth at home, partly because of tradition and also too poor to pay for a birth at the clinic. For Miriam, no fancy Western equipment, just a kit containing soap, gloves, and a sterile razor. In the middle of the night, Miriam goes into labor. She lies on the floor, frightened and confused. Her baby is born. When the midwives unwrap him, his body is icy cold. But with the training they've been given, they immediately begin to warm his tiny blue feet. And even though he weighs only 5 pounds, Miriam's little baby is healthy enough to live. But vulnerable and isolated, the little girl who just wanted to be a teacher cries for her baby's life and perhaps for hers.
You educate that girl, and she's much more likely to stand up and say, no, I want to stay in school. I don't want to get married.
This is the ripple that starts the whole...
It's the girl effect.
Exactly right.
Back in the United States, our 26-year-old American woman, Christy Spadaro, sends a message to a new mom a world apart.
Just want to make sure you can see little Mia.
And from Afghanistan, a question comes back for Christy.
Is she boy or a girl?
She's a girl, Mia Rose.
She says the beautiful name.
Thank you. Yours too. Health and happiness for your baby.
As we leave, Christy and her husband have something for us. We've been talking about how much a few dollars can do for the women around the world.
People can give $3 and save the life of a woman having a baby in Afghanistan for clean.
Christy's husband, a new dad, gives us every dollar he has.
Take all my money here.
It's whatever he had on.
From Mia.